welcome back to my channel. Welcome back to Vlogtober. I'm so happy to have you here. If you are new, if you've never been here before, hello, I am Joelle. I am a mum to 5. I'm married to David and we are raising these 5 kids together, and I love to film all things mum life, and I have taken on Vlogtober this month, and so I'm so excited to be putting out videos every day. I wanted to do a bit of a different video today. I want to talk about the topics of school and homeschooling. If you don't know our background, we are a homeschool family who just recently sent our 2 eldest boys off to school, and I have a video explaining our reasons behind that decision if you are interested in watching that. But to save time, I won't go into it now, but I'll just say that our 2 eldest boys went to school last term, at the beginning of last term, which was the middle of the school year, and it's been quite an experience for them, and I'm very proud of them. And I'm still homeschooling our younger kids at home. And so now that our kids have gone for a full term and now they're into their second term, which is actually term 4, but that's okay, not to confuse anyone, we have a little bit more of an understanding and an idea now of what school looks like, how it works, and I guess you could say the honeymoon period has worn off, just like it does for all things. And I feel as though we can have a bit more of a balanced look at the benefits of school compared to homeschool, and also the downside of school compared to homeschool, and just on the opposite end of that, the benefits of homeschooling compared to school, and then the downside of homeschooling compared to school as well. And so I just thought this would be an interesting topic. I know in the past when I have looked up videos to try to get some information, I have found some which have been good, but not a lot. And so I hope that if anyone else is out there researching, maybe this video can be a blessing and a bit of a help to you as well. So I'm going to begin by talking about school. I want to talk about the benefits that we have found as a family for school. The first one being structure. School has brought a lot of structure to our lives, and as a homeschool family, which I'll get into in a moment, we did have structure and routine to a degree, but we were also very go with the flow. Whatever takes us in the moment, we might have one plan, but we can go to the other one. And, oftentimes things didn't get done. And if I'm completely honest, sometimes things just didn't get done for no reason at all, just because life happened and we're all at home together. And so school has really provided a very stable, consistent structure for my older boys, which has been great because they are on a little bit of the higher level of schooling now compared to their other brother and sisters. And so that has been a real blessing, that Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, at the exact same time, until the exact same time, they are at school and they are doing school and they are learning. And so that's been a really big stretch for them, but it's also been a real benefit. And it's been a benefit to me because it means that I have to be, up and ready to take them to school. And then that's brought a bit more structure to my day while they are at school as well. So the first benefit of school that we have seen is structure. The second benefit that I have seen from school has been the school community in itself. The school that our children are going to is a wonderful school. It is a Christian school. It's a smaller one, and I mean, it's still huge. It's huge to the homeschool kid, but it's smaller than some of the other ones. And I can genuinely say wholeheartedly that every teacher I have met is so lovely. The principal is lovely. These the staff there just go completely out of their way to help and assist, and they've really made the transition for my boys as smooth as it could possibly be. They've been there to support them and to encourage them, and then also the kids as well. For the most part, the kids there have been great from what I've heard. I mean, I'm not there every day, I can't see, but from what my boys come back and tell me, the kids there seem to be, for the most part, really nice, and not the bully type, if you know what I mean. There are definitely some, I'm sure, but they're not experiencing a whole lot of scrutiny and bullying. That hasn't been perfect, and I'll talk about that in a minute, but for the most part, the community as a whole has been fantastic. David and I have really appreciated having another community in the Canberra area. So my husband is a pastor, and we have the most beautiful, wonderful church best church community in the world. I'm telling you the truth. But I think it's really important for us as a ministry couple to have a community as well, that we're not leading, if you know what I mean, just that we are a part of and we're participating in. And so that has been a real blessing to us as a family. It's just the community side that school has brought. Okay, and the last benefit, I could list many more, but I'm just going to do three benefits, 3 downsides for each side. The last benefit that I want to talk about is just the opportunity for my boys to be pushed in a safe environment. And pushed, I mean in a good way. They have been forced in a way to go out of their comfort zones and to stretch and to walk into new and scary situations and to push through and to try things they've never tried before and to come out on the other side feeling really proud of themselves. And so I'm very grateful to the school and to the teachers for giving my boys that chance and for encouraging them alongside, because it has not been easy. We have had days where there have been tears and frustration, but as young men, as future men, they do require the opportunity to, come up against a wall here and there and to be able to push through it and to feel that that feeling of success, that feeling of accomplishment. And they have certainly been able to feel that by going to school. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about I don't really know what word to use, because I'm not ever trying to come across, I guess I could say pros and cons, because I don't want to say the downside. That doesn't sound really nice. The pros and cons of school, the pros and cons of homeschooling. So we've talked about 3 pros of school, and now I'm going to talk about 3 cons, or the other side of the spectrum that I see, that I am starting to see with school after a term and just a tiny bit. So the first one would be obviously just the difference in the amount of time that I have with our boys. I really miss it. I really, really do. And I don't just miss it. The whole family misses it. So my boys miss being with us. We miss being with our boys, because as a family of 7 who have homeschooled their children from day dot, we have always been together. And so, and I won't get into that because I'm going to get into that on the other side, but we're just really missing each other, if that makes sense. It's good in a way because it really makes us appreciate each other and appreciate the time that we have together. But we certainly miss the, just that special, I guess, quality extra time that we had. I guess we sort of felt a little bit special in the sense that we knew we had that extra time together. And so obviously with the 2 boys going to school, we've literally sort of split the kids in half for the day. And I'm missing that, definitely missing that. Okay, the second con that I am starting to see with school is just the issue of comparison. My boys being homeschooled never really, they didn't show many insecurities. And I know that this is a big part of growing up as well, and that this is something that they have to face. But in the home environment, they obviously would compare each other to each other, and but in a good way, sort of in a healthy, competitive way. But at school, I'm actually starting to see genuine insecurity, and I've never seen that with my boys before. And to be honest, it's a little bit heartbreaking to see them comparing themselves, whether good or bad. I don't like that. I don't like the comparison. And I mean, I did it when I was in school. I think every school kid does. And that's just a side of school. I mean, it literally was not existing in our lives until they started going to school. And suddenly there's just this whole pool of children their age. And it's like, either academically, why is this person better than me? Or why am I this in my class? Or why is this person taller than me? Or they're faster than me? Or whatever it is. And it's, again, I know that a healthy balance of that is just part of growing up, but I'm just mildly annoyed because I feel like their confidence before going to school was quite a lot higher. And now that they are, in that set sort of, and hear me out, I'm not trying to ever put anything down. anybody down. My husband is a school teacher as well, by the way. He's a pastor and a school teacher. So love school teachers, not here to ever talk against them. But the school system in general, there is really just this children, I know that they do their best to do differentiated learning, and I so appreciate that. But there is still this like level of all kids will be here at this time, and they need to know a minimum of this to keep going. It's sort of like everybody has to be the square and fit in the square. And I know, like I said, that the desire for differentiated learning is there, but it's not always possible with the class sizes. And so my boys, being homeschooled, they are very bright, smart, young men. They really, really are, but we did a completely different curriculum. And so they have come into school knowing some things that kids in their class don't know, and then not knowing some things that the kids are doing. And it's been really confronting for them. And so that's just been hard, and I don't blame them. I don't blame the school. If it's anybody's fault, I guess you could say it's my fault, because I was teaching them a great curriculum, but not the curriculum that was taught at school, if that makes sense. And so, yeah, that comparing is, it just doesn't leave a nice taste in my mouth, and I don't like it at all. And I'm hoping that as they're there a little bit longer, maybe that will just settle down a little bit, but I don't like to see insecurity in my children. I don't like it. Okay, I'm not sure if you can hear my dog snoring. If you can, I'm sorry, he's literally right at my feet snoring. So the third con that I would say is homework. I cannot stand homework. And not because I don't want to sit down and do it with my kids, but because the very idea of homework is insane to me. Like, I cannot wrap my mind around it. I didn't like it when I was a student, but I had gone to school my whole life, so I didn't know any different. But coming from a homeschool background, you know, school is school and life is learning. And so, you know, it's like if you've done your block of learning for the day, unless it's life learning, which is obviously continual, and cooking or whatever, that's not included. But, you know, sit down book work, like, you're done. You've sat down, you've done it, and now move on. I cannot for the life of me. I actually get so frustrated. And I have mentioned it to the teachers, but I've tried to like not make a scene or anything, but I cannot understand why they would take kids and have them work for 6 hours of their day and then send them home with homework and assignments. It's like, are you guys nuts? Like, not the teachers, but the school system in general. Like, what is this? Let them learn at school, let them give their best, and then let them go home and be kids and rest and offload and be with family. And so I will say, to their credit, like, my boys' teachers have gone out of their way to be like, hey, just have them do this amount, and if they're not done in this time, just leave it. I will say that, and I really appreciate that. But just in general, like, the whole idea of homework, because I don't know who the teacher will be next year, and I don't know if they will be as lenient, you know, with the homework. And like, I have actually just like told them not to do it, and maybe that's really bad, but I've seen sometimes the amount of things that are on the list for them to do, and I'm like, yeah, no, that's actually really unreasonable, and you're not going to be doing that. You don't need to do that. And again, to the teachers' credit, when I have voiced that, they've been totally fine with it. But I cannot understand the concept of homework. If kids are going to school for 6 hours, then let them learn there, let them do a fabulous job, then let them go home and just enjoy being kids. That's my opinion. Okay, so now it's time for homeschooling. Pro number one for homeschooling. Again, they're going to sort of touch, I guess, on the pros and cons. There'll be an overlap here. I'm using my hands a lot. Can you see that? So number one pro of homeschooling, obviously, is the time, the quality time. I said in another video that I made a couple videos back talking about, you know, the mother I wish I was, and the things that I'm failing in is wasting time. And one of the reasons we homeschooled in the first place, there were many reasons for it, but one of the reasons was because I didn't want to waste any time. I wanted to have as much time as I possibly could with my children. You know, 18 years goes so fast, and then they are independent and they can go out and do what they want, and you want them to. You want them to be strong, independent, young adults ready to launch out into the world, but that time is so short. And I remember doing the math, and I wish I researched this before I started it, but when you do 6 hours a day, for the school days of the year, from kindergarten to year 12, it's like literally, or I think it's like 3 or 4 years. It adds up to being 3 or 4 years of a child's life that they are at school. And I'm like, I just, as a mum, did not want to give 3 or 4 years of my children's lives to somebody else to have, if that makes sense. And so that one still hits really hard for me. Like, I really struggle with that. And even just sending my boys back for term 2 was so hard, because they came home and they were home for 3 weeks with us, and we just fell back into our regular pattern. It was like, this is so easy to just slip back into being together and being in each other's space. And I know we annoy each other, and I know that we have our arguments, but we love each other. We love being around each other. There's this real comfort being close to each other. And so I struggled. I really struggled to send them again for term 2, but they've gone. They've gone back to school. And I guess my heart just sort of aches for that extra 6 hours a day. And it wasn't always perfect. It's not like we spent, and I'll talk about that in the con, it wasn't always like we had just 6 beautiful hours a day of homeschooling, not at all. But just the principle of it, like having that extra time with them, was very, very meaningful to me. So that's a real pro for homeschooling, the extra time you get with your kids. Pro number 2, and I mean, this is such an important one, was that, and I sort of touched on this on the con of school, is that children can learn at their own pace. They can learn at their own pace. And I am seriously still such a believer in this. I do not believe or agree with the cookie cutter approach to school. I just don't. There are children who will read later in life. There are children who will show no interest whatsoever in handwriting for way past what the school age would be. And then suddenly they do, and then they get it perfectly. I've said it many, many times, but it's Albert Einstein that said, if you're telling a fish to go climb a tree, he's going to feel like a failure. But if you let him go in the ocean, he'll feel amazing. He'll be doing what he's meant to be doing. And I feel the exact same way with learning. The brain is, God makes us so unique, and the brain is an amazing thing. And there are just skills and things that we learn at different times, and things click for people at different times, and people learn in different ways. And so homeschooling, I have 5 children. I have 5 very different children, and it really catered to their individual needs. Obviously, I couldn't do everything perfectly, but I did feel like I was able to just so into the strong points of my children. And like I was talking about the comparing, like they were not comparing themselves, because they felt really confident in what they were doing. And when it comes to homeschooling, I am telling you, oh my gosh, I feel like I've got to like preach this or something, but like by the time a child is 16, 17 years old, they will know what they need to know. They will know what they need to know. And if they don't know, they will be at a place where they are good learners, they are self-learners, and they will go and they will learn. They can go and take TAFE courses or what it's certificate 4s or whatever it is, and eventually get into university. And it's like, it's not a problem, if you know what I mean. And so I think often kids are led to believe that they are failing or that they are behind because they are not keeping up with their class, or they can't do certain things at a certain level. No, I could not disagree more. I don't believe any child is failing. I believe every child develops differently and at a different pace, and every child will have a strength that is different to the other child and a weakness that is different to the other child. And homeschooling just provides such a safe, holistic environment for their strengths to shine through, and for their weaknesses to just get enough. Like, that's how I was like, okay, this is maybe not your strong point, so let's just get you competent. Let's just get you to the place where you need to be, and then let's focus on what you love. Like that is my heart in the way that I teach my children. And so I just love that. I love that about homeschooling, and I could not say it strong enough how much I love that. I love it so much. Okay, number three, not number six, number three pro of homeschooling was the flexibility. Oh my gosh, that's my dishwasher. I loved the flexibility of homeschooling, and this also will be a con, so just stick with me. But the pro side of it, I loved the flexibility of homeschooling. I loved that we could set our days, that we could set our times. I loved that we could go on holidays whenever we wanted to go on holidays, which was hardly ever in the school holidays. So we always got things cheaper. We didn't have the crowds. We'd go up to Queensland and we would have the theme parks to ourselves. Like, it was just the best. Like, I absolutely loved the flexibility, and I loved not having, I guess, anybody to, you know, this is a con as well, so but not having anybody to, you know, have to show up for, if that makes sense. You know, we've got to be there at this time or whatever. It was like, no, our mornings were relaxed, our mornings were chilled. If my kids needed to sleep in, they could sleep in, you know what I mean? If somebody was sick, okay, have a day off. If they just weren't feeling up to it, like sometimes we would be having a homeschool day, and then I would just have one kid who just was not up for it that day. They just were not there mentally to take it on. They could do some things and not other things. And I would get to the point where we're like halfway through the day and I'm like, you know what? You're done for today. That's fine. We can do it again tomorrow. Like, just, you go do this now, or whatever it was. There was just that flexibility, and I absolutely loved it. Okay, so homeschooling cons, because I'm going to be very fair here. Just like I was talking about the flexibility as being a pro, I would also list that as a con as well, because unless you are a very disciplined person, which I struggle to be a lot of the time, you can just get so easily distracted and end up not doing what you set out to do that day. And so I will admit there were many days where, and this is where, okay, it depends on your homeschool philosophy. So if I was unschooling, this would not be a failure. And I called myself, they were like oxymorons. I was like an unschooling Charlotte Mason style homeschool. And if you know homeschool philosophies, you'll know that they are two very opposite philosophies. But I was very much into, well, nothing's a failure because my kids are always learning and they're life learning, and they are always around, you know, their parents, and they're out in the world. They're not just at home all day. They're not just in a classroom all day. They're out and they're doing things. But at the same time, sometimes I will admit that that sit down book work structure would fail, and we wouldn't get to it, or we wouldn't do it enough, or we wouldn't do it long enough. And so I know homeschoolers who are super organized, super structured. They would not let anything get in the way of their agenda for the day. And that is really how I needed to be. That is really how I am trying to be now with my 3 younger ones as well. And so, yes, it's not having structure is a real con of homeschooling. Not having, you know, a teacher that you have to show up for, or a principal that is going to get you in trouble if you're late too many days in a row, whatever it is. Like, that is also a con in a big way, because it can lead to, I guess, just, I don't want to say laziness, because that was never the heart behind it, but just, yeah, unfinished work, a lack of quality behind the work. That would definitely be a con for the homeschooling for me. Let me just point that out. I'm not talking about all homeschoolers in general. This is my experience. And I'm not talking about all schools in general either. This has just been my experience. Okay, so con number 2 for homeschooling, and this is going to sound a little bit controversial, this one, because I know in the homeschool community, the socialization topic is a really hot topic, and we can be quite easily triggered. I know that I used to be quite easily triggered when someone would say, oh, what about socialization and all of that? Now, first of all, let me tell you this. Homeschool children are not unsocialized. Homeschool children have very good social skills in general. There are weird homeschooled kids, and there are weird kids who go to school. So being weird has nothing to do with being homeschooled, okay? So sometimes people think, oh, that child is weird and they're homeschooled and it's because they're homeschooled. No, children are just weird. I was a weird child. I really was. I was a weird kid. And I think there are many people, I think the weirder, that's great, because you grow up to be unique, and in the homeschool environment, at least the weirdness is like celebrated and the strengths are drawn out. And as that child grows and matures, they just do. They come, you know, they haven't been bullied through it, is what I'm trying to say. So, but I will say, so back in Penrith, we had a really great homeschool community. Sometimes there was up to 40 kids going on excursions, and we regularly just had meetups with kids and excursions, and it was great. It was really great. My best friend and her kids were there, and so my children were seeing other children and interacting with other children on a really regular basis back up in Western Sydney. But when we moved to Canberra, we really just had a lot of trouble fitting in with the homeschool community. And I will say that right before my kids started school, we did actually find a couple of families that we were starting to gel with pretty well. But that obviously ended when our kids started school, because the boys that they were hanging out were their age. But again, that they were not my younger kids' age as well. So when we moved to Canberra, we really struggled to find a good community, and that really did take a toll. It took a toll on the kids. It took a toll on me as well, because as a homeschool mum, sorry, I'm a little bit sinusy. Yeah, you really rely on the support of other homeschool mums. And so if you don't have a good community behind you, that social side, it's not that it's going to make the children weird, because I firmly disagree with that. I think the best example for children's socialization is actually their parents, and then being given the opportunities, you know, being in sport, being in church, being in athletics, being in different clubs, or whatever it is. You can make that happen for your kids outside of school, but without that sort of homeschool group and support, you can feel quite lonely and isolated and unmotivated to keep going. And so, yeah, a con is that if you don't have a group, like I found myself in that situation, you can find yourself quite lonely. Okay, and the last con for homeschooling would be that, and this is again for me personally, this is not for everybody, it's just that as my children were getting older, I was starting to feel quite overwhelmed with what I could actually teach them, particularly in the areas of math and science. Yeah, that was quite overwhelming for me, and that's definitely a con. If you don't have just a fantastic curriculum and, you know, a great, maybe even a co-op, that's a fantastic thing to have for these harder subjects. And if you don't understand what you're teaching, yeah, that really makes it hard. And that's where I found myself in. I had an okay curriculum, but I just wasn't confident in teaching it. And then I didn't have that group and that co-op to sort of lean on and get help for my boys. And so they started to also, you know, not be, and I'm not being cookie cutter, but they weren't progressing as quickly as they should have been based on what we were doing. And so that was really tough. And yeah, so I would just say that, I guess, how do I word it? A con for me was the overwhelming feeling of not being able to teach my children what they need to know, if that makes sense. Now, that doesn't mean that it's impossible with homeschooling. And as I said, if you've got a great curriculum, if you've got a good structure set up, it is possible. And yeah, that would be it for me. That's a really honest conversation. Again, can I say these are my thoughts? I'm not trying to reflect them on anybody else or anybody else's experience. This is just personally what I have found as a homeschool mum, and now as a school mum as well, what I love about it, what I don't like about it. Yeah, we've got one foot in one world and one foot in the other. And so it's very interesting. It's an interesting place to be. Our children are on the wait list. Other children are on the wait list to go to school. But I will say that we always pray. We pray about everything, and we're always open to the Lord leading us in whatever direction He would have us go. So that could look like all 5 of our children being in school. That could look like all 5 of our children being homeschooled again. That could look like some of our children going to school and some of our children being homeschooled. We don't know, but we do know we have a good God, and we do know that we love our children, and we will do whatever is best for them and by them. And so, yeah, that's where we're at. I hope this could have helped you in some way, or that you at least found it interesting. I'd love to hear from you if you have had a similar experience, or if you have any questions. Please put them in the comments below, or chat with me on Instagram. Nice comments, please. Nice comments. I've had a few nasty ones lately, which is interesting. But yeah, I would love to hear from you. Thank you so much for being here. It is Vlogtober, so I will see you tomorrow with another video. Take care. God bless you. Bye.